The integumentary system. The integument as an organ. So the integument as an organ and is an alternative name for skin. The integumentary system includes the skin and the skin derivatives like the hair, nails, and glands. So the skin or cutaneous membrane, it covers the external surface of the body and is the largest organ of the body, having an area of about 2 square meters in adults and weighs 4.5 to 5 kg and about 16% of the total body weight. So the organs of integumentary system include the skin and its accessory structures. Apart from that, the dermatology is the medical specialty for the diagnosis and treatment of disorders of the integumentary system, that is skin. Structure of the skin. The skin cutaneous membrane, so it covers the body and is the largest organ of the body by surface area and weight. Its area is about 2 square meters and weight 4.5 to 5 kgs. It is 0.5 to 4 mm thick and thinnest on the eyelids. It is thickest on the heels. The average thickness is 1 to 5 mm. Functions of the integumentary system. First is protection, that is first line of defense against bacteria and viruses. Apart from that, it protects the underlying structures from ultraviolet radiation and dehydration. Then vitamin D production needed for calcium absorption and sensation from sensory receptors. In addition to this, it helps in the regulation of body temperature. If it is too hot, the dermal blood vessels dilate. Vessels carry more blood to the surface so heat can escape. If it is too cold, dermal blood vessels constrict and prevent heat from escaping. Lastly, excretion. Small amount of waste products are lost through perspiration. Structure of the skin. So, in structure, it includes the epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. These are the three layers of the skin. So, the epidermis is basically composed of various keratinocytes, stratified squamous epithelium, and it contains four principal types of cells like keratinocytes, melanocytes, Langerhans cells, Merkel cells. So here we are able to observe the structure of the skin. Here in this diagram, we are able to see the epidermis, then the dermis part, which is the middle layer, and then the last, the underlying layer from the hypodermis is from the dermis is the hypodermis. Skin structure, epidermis. So basically, it is vascular, stratified squamous epithelium and nutrients and oxygen diffuse from the capillaries into the dermis. So apart from that, the various cells which are also present in the epidermis, like already mentioned, the keratinocytes, melanocytes, Langerhans cells, and Merkel cells. So the keratinocytes, they produce keratin, which is tough fibrous protein that provides protection. Then melanocytes, which produce the pigment melanin that protects against the damage by the ultraviolet radiations. And Langerhans cells, they are involved in the immune response arising from the red bone marrow. Then we have the Merkel cells, which function in the sensation of touch along with the adjacent tactile discs. Here in this slide, we are able to see the various types of cells. In this, we are able to see the keratinocytes, melanocytes, apart from that, Langerhans cells and Merkel cells with the Merkel tactile discs, that is a sensory neuron which is getting attached to the Merkel cells and helps provide help in the sensory perception. In the skin structure, epidermis, in this, we are able to see the various layers. Apart from that, epidermis, when is able to connect to the next layer, that is the dermal layer, there are several dermal papillae which we are able to see from the diagram. So they help in providing the attachment to the next layer, that is the dermal layer. So this is the structural relationship and interface between the epidermis and the underlying dermis. The proportions of various layers differ with the location as sampled, and we are able to see on the slides. Here, in this, we are able to see the various layers of the epidermis. In this, we have stratum basale, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, and stratum lucidum, which is mainly present in the thick skin. In the thin skin, stratum lucidum is not present. Then we have the stratum corneum, that is the topmost layer. The other diagram now, here we will be able to clearly see the different layers of the epidermis, four principal layers. In the stratum basale, that is also called the Malpighian layer, it is the deepest layer and is composed of single row of cuboidal or columnar keratinocytes that contains scattered to no filaments, intermediate filaments. Stem cells undergo cell division to produce new keratinocytes and is known as stratum germinatum. Langerhans cells, Merkel cells associated with tactile discs, are scattered among the keratinocytes. In the stratum spinosum, that is the prickle cell layer, it consists of 8 to 10 layers of many-sided keratinocytes with bundled tonofilaments. It includes projections of melanocytes and Langerhans cells. In the stratum granulosum, that is the granular layer, it consists of 3 to 5 rows of flattened keratinocytes in which organelles are beginning to degenerate. Cells contain the protein keratohyalin, which converts tenofilaments into keratin, and the lamellar granules, which release a lipid layer water repellent secretion, a kind of water repellent secretion. Then in stratum lucidum, which is a clear layer, it represents only in the skin of fingertips, palms, and soles, and it consists of 3 to 5 rows of clear, flat, dead keratinocytes with large amount of keratin and thickened plasma membrane. The stratum corneum, that is the horny layer, it consists of 25 to 30 rows of dead, flat keratinocytes that contain mostly keratin, and between the cells are lipids from the lamellar granules, making it water repellent barrier. It protects deeper layers from injury and microbial invasion. So constant friction causes an abnormal thickening of this stratum called as callus. So from the diagram, it is quite clear how the four principal cell types of the epidermis. So a complete understanding, a basic recapitulation. In stratum basale, it forms a strong bond between the epidermis and dermis, has many basal cells or germinative cells. Then the stratum spinosum, that is the spiny layer, which is produced by division of stratum basale, and 8 to 10 layers of keratinocytes bound by desmosomes. Apart from that, the stratum granulosum, here this is the grainy layer, and here we have the keratin and keratohyalin present. And in the stratum lucidum, it is found only in the thick skin. It is the clear layer and covers stratum granulosum. Lastly, the stratum corneum, the horny layer, exposed surface of the skin, 15 to 30 layers of keratinized cells. It is water resistant and shed and replaced every 2 weeks. Now we are going to see the diagram of dermis. So dermis, this is second deeper part of the skin and is composed mainly of connective tissue. Blood vessels, nerves, glands, hair follicles are embedded in the dermal tissue. Histologically, the dermis can be divided into papillary region and reticular region. So here in this diagram, we are clearly able to see the sweat glands, the presence of the hair follicle, the erector, hair erector muscle, and sebaceous gland. And this is the middle layer, clear middle layer, which is called the dermis. Now, dermis in detail. So, located between the epidermis and subcutaneous layer, it anchors epidermal accessory structures, hair follicles, sweat glands. Two components is outer papillary layer and deep reticular layer. So, the papillary layer or the papillary region is about 1/5 of the thickness of the total layers and consists of areolar connective tissue primarily containing fine elastic fibers. Its surface area is greatly increased by small finger-like structures called the dermal papillae. The reticular layer. So in the reticular layer or the reticular region, this consists of dense irregular connective tissue and contains larger blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and nerve fibers. It contains collagen and elastic fibers and contains connective tissue proper. Dermatitis is an inflammatory condition of the papillary layer. It is caused by infection, radiation, mechanical irritation, or chemicals, and it's characterized by itch or pain. And characteristics include strong due to collagen fibers, elastic due to elastic fibers, and it is flexibility. Skin structure, hypodermis, last part. So in case of the hypodermis, it is lies below the integument and it stabilizes the skin, allows separate movement made of elastic areolar and adipose tissue, and is connected to the reticular layer of integument by connective tissue fibers. Deposits of subcutaneous fat, it is seen that is distribution patterns determined by hormones and reduced by cosmetics, that is liposuction, where we see where the fat content is very high there. So this is the thing about the hypodermis, that is the subcutaneous layer, or it can be also called the subcutaneous fat, which lies just below the dermis. Thank you.